Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daingeon. On today's episode, we're checking out a brand new projector from BenQ that just got released today. This is the TK710. Stick around.
Nice to be in orbit.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining me here on the Daingeon. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below. Like I mentioned before, we're checking out the brand new laser projector from BenQ. This is the TK710. It's the follow-up to the TK700, which I did a review on a couple years ago. Today we're going to go over all the different features of the TK710. I'll show you some footage and we'll do some gaming on it. So thanks for joining me here on the Daingeon, and let's get going. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daingeon. Today we're going over the BenQ TK710. This is the updated version of the TK700. The TK710 is a laser-based projector. It is specifically for gaming as well as some great movie content. It has a laser that offers that 20,000 hour lamp life in normal mode. Compared to the old TK700, which I thought was a great projector, make sure you check out my video of the TK700 below, that projector only had a 4,000 hour lamp life in normal mode. So this makes things a lot easier. You're not going to have to replace a bulb. Laser looks really sharp. It's 3,200 lumens. It offers HDR, 4K, and super low latency. Along with two of my new favorite features, the 10% vertical lens shift correction and corner correction. So let's go over all the specs of the new TK710 from BenQ. So first we'll talk about what comes in the box. You'll get your instruction manual along with 2 batteries for the remote. Just like typical BenQ projectors, you're going to get your remote. This one is a small remote, but it's pretty nice, as well as the power cord. The BenQ measures about 12 inches by 9 inches by 4 inches and weighs about 3 kilograms, which is like 6 pounds. Taking a look at the back of the projector, you have about 5 plugins for media, along with your power. Your audio out, your RS-232, your 1.5 amp USB, HDMI 2.0B1, and HDMI 2.0B2. Moving on to the top of the projector, you can see the button layout in the bottom right, and in the top left you have your lens shift dial, your focus dial, and your zoom. These are typical to BenQ. I do love that they added the lens shift feature. I truly think that is a game-changing feature with these projectors, especially in this compact, small design. I'll show you guys what that looks like later and how it really helps out when you want to set up that perfect flat projector image on your screen. The button layout, power button, your toggle, your volume, source, eco blank, back button, menu button, and mode. Pretty much everything that's on the remote is just consolidated here, so if the projector is hanging upside down overhead, you can easily access the buttons if you can't find the remote. Works out relatively well. On the bottom of the projector, you'll take a look and see that we have the 4K imagery along with the IR sensor, a little ventilation area for the lamp, and on the side of the projector you have your intake as well as your exit exhaust fans, and you can see your speaker there. That's on the left side. It's that little silver disc. Taking a look at the bottom of the projector, like most BenQ projectors of this size, you have your twist feet so you can adjust the image and get it balanced if you're setting it on its normal position, along with the upside down mounting options with the 3 threaded projector mount options. Overall, the projector looks really nice. The remote, on the other hand, it's not backlit. It does have buttons. It has a great feel to it, rubberized buttons anyway, but it's really all you need. This projector does not come with a mobile media stick, so keep in mind anything that you want to watch as far as the media delivery goes, you'll have to plug in like an Apple TV or an Nvidia Shield. But when you do, man, look at this image. 3,200 lumens of brightness. Keep in mind my screen is a super light gray 1.3 gain screen. And make no mistake, the 600,000 to 1 contrast ratio built into the TK710 is absolutely amazing. You can see in the imagery here, you get those great black levels, those super crisp greens, reds, blues, yellows. And of course, the projector, like I said, is 3200 lumens, so you can put this thing on normal mode and really brighten up the image. Now, typically I just use eco mode, which is what you're looking at here. I think that's perfectly fine for a normal theater setup. If you do have a little bit of ambient light, of course, bump that up to normal. You'll have a great image, even with a little bit of light in the background. Let's go ahead and take a look at the projector's UI. This is your typical BenQ UI. Right now you're looking at my Apple TV there, but if you zoom in, you can see there's several options between picture, audio, display, installation, system, and information. This is typical of BenQ projectors. The picture mode is great. It has the HDR settings for RPG, standard HDR 10, HDR FPS, first-person shooter if you're a gamer, and then you, of course, can add your own HDR user settings if you'd like, which makes it super customizable. Below that, you have your mode settings. If you jump into that, you can rename your picture modes. You have details adjustment. You can switch that on and off, kind of brightens the image, brings out some details. Probably works best when gaming if I had to recommend it. Of course, you have your quick adjust functions with brightness, contrast, sharpness. And below you have your advanced color settings. Going into this, you have your color temperature tuning. You can adjust between normal, cool, warm, and you can also adjust it more fine-tuned below with the RGB offset, and the gain. Color management is if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty. I don't usually do that. 3 different light source modes: normal, dynamic, and eco. Like I said, I typically leave it on eco. For this test here, you'll see I switch between the 3. And then, of course, you have your HDR brightness adjustment. Leaving it at 0, it looks pretty good. If you go all the way up, it brightens the image really well. And if you go all the way down, it brings down those black levels so you get a little bit more contrast for like dark scenes. You also have your noise reduction. This doesn't do anything that I could see right up front. I do believe this will offer some good noise reduction during like fast moving scenes, maybe grainy scenes with different types of content. Your sound modes, you have your typical cinema, user, gaming, etc. You get the output from the internal speaker, or you can do eARC. Taking a look at the display, this allows you to adjust the aspect ratio. It can do an auto source search. So if you have a couple devices plugged in and one's turned on and one's turned off, it'll go to the one that's turned on. Your typical EDID, your device control, 4K upscaling. I did mess with this just to see what it looked like. I think the Apple TV was already broadcasting in 4K, so turning it off didn't do anything. But if you have something that projects in like a 1080p or a 720, it does upscale pretty well. Finally, if you're taking a look at your projector positioning under the installation options, you have 3D keystoning. I did mention that there's corner correction, 3D keystoning. This is the 4-point corner adjustment screen. Works out really well if you're trying to pull in those corners to make your image fit perfectly. And of course, you have your typical test pattern. Always use these things when you're setting it up. It makes a big difference. And then finally, you have your menu settings under the system. You could do an advanced menu or a light menu. It's up to you. You can look at your light source information. You can see here that I have about 3 hours on this thing already. And all your different operation settings, LED lights, passwords, parental controls, stuff like that. Works out really well, but this screen right here is super important. If you ever want to check out what information you're getting to your projector, 4K 60 eco mode, it shows all that stuff. Okay, so here's an example of adjusting with that vertical lens shift. I'm going to speed it up a little bit just so you can get an idea of what this looks like. But really, it is helpful when you're doing the installation of your projector because it gives you that 10% adjustment up and down. So if you set your projector on a shelf and you need it to just pop up just a little bit, you can actually, and you got it nice and level, you can actually just use the lens shift. You don't have to actually lift up the projector or adjust the feet. If you already have it level, you just raise it up there like it's showing, and you can lower it as well, 10%. Make sure you set it in the center so when you begin, it's in a good spot. Otherwise, the next cool option that they offer is this 4-point adjustment. And this allows you to kind of blow up the image You can get everything well within frame, and then you can pull in those corners. Obviously, not all walls are plumb or accurate. So when you hang your projector screen, not everything is going to be facing the exact direction that your projector is going to be displayed on. That helps out a ton. So if you watched my videos before on the Daingeon, you know that I like to go through different light scenarios. People with theaters, people with projectors deal with different types of ambient light. This projector cuts through a lot of good ambient light. So you can usually use this projector in a situation where you might have some lamps on, some overhead lights, or even some sunshine coming through the windows. And I wanted to show you it here with 3 different examples. The first example I wanted to show you was just some normal 4K footage. This is some stuff I found on YouTube. I sped it up so you can kind of see 50%, 100%, 0 lights. And then I switched over to a dark game. This is Dead Space. This is the remake for PS5. It's a 4K game. The lights are on here. You really can't see the image too well. The reason being, it's a very dark game. If I put it to 50% like you're looking at here, it's much better. Now, it's not necessarily clear as far as details go, but keep in mind the game is a very dark game. It's a horror game. If you switch the lights 100% off, it looks really good. You can see all the details, but you basically have to have a light-controlled room. A game like Rocket League, where it's a very bright atmosphere, you have a much better view of what's going on in the game. Here's the lights at 100%, and here's the lights after I turn them off. You'll notice when I turn them off, the white background really pops. The dark backgrounds, the dark details tend to come out a lot better. All right, so if you like to game like I do, I'm going to show you some examples of what this thing is like with the PS5. I have the game mode settings that pops up like right when you start the console. Then you go through your HDR adjustment through the PlayStation, and everything looks really good. The example I'm going to use today is Gran Turismo 7. This game is one of my favorite games only because it gives me a lot of opportunity to show you the different features that new next-gen gaming offers. The first thing being 120 hertz with the 1080p settings. It also has HDR, so it looks really good. And just the realism of the game itself, I think, is very complete. So we're looking at it here with Eco Mode. We got the sound set at Cinema. I'll play some sound later so you can hear what the speakers sound like. I'm going to put it at max volume. My camera's just sitting a few feet behind it, but take a listen, take a look. Let me know what you think. And we'll go over some of the Gran Turismo gaming options that this TK710 offers, so you can get a good glimpse of how this is for gaming. I think it's excellent for gaming. So I would highly recommend, if you are looking for something that's nice and compact with a super bright image that has those various low latency functions, this is the projector to target. Comparing the TK710 to the other rivals or the previous iterations of the TK700, you can see that the input lag has been adjusted quite a bit for the TK710. You have 16.7 milliseconds at 1080p 60 hertz. You also have 2K options, 4K options, 1080p 240 hertz, 1080p 120, 2K 120, and does downscaling to 1080p 120 hertz. So you don't necessarily get a 2K or a 4K image. You get a 1080p image, but you get the option of 240 or 120 hertz, which really reduces your latency. Finally, as you can see here, the game just looks really good. The realism, the color accuracy, even in 1080p, I really couldn't tell a difference. This really looked like a 4K game to me. It's at 120 hertz, so it's super smooth and super responsive. The black levels look wonderful. The brights, you can see the image in the distance really well. There is no rainbow effect that I could notice. I think that's a really good advantage to the laser. I haven't noticed any type of rainbow or weird clipping effects. So keep that in mind if you're sensitive to like that DLP with LED and or with the lamp-based versions. This laser is super improved, and I don't see any of that happening, especially at the 120 hertz refresh rate, which I found with other projectors tended to happen more often. Oh yeah, and here's a clip of the sound that this thing outputs. I have it at 20, which is the max it goes, and my camera's about 3 feet behind the projector. Sounds pretty good, nothing crazy. I'd still suggest using a sound system, but it has it. If you want that feature, or if you have it in a small area that you can't get speakers, works out pretty well. Well, that about does it for my review of the TK710. The last thing I wanted to mention is that the price point is going to be $17.99 per BenQ's website, and it releases on June 3rd. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me here on the Daingeon today. I appreciate you checking out the review of the new TK710 from BenQ. I really do think this projector is awesome. It's great that they added those cool new features such as lens shift and corner positioning. Obviously, 4K, HDR, and that 120 Hz refresh rate is perfect for those who love to game. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments below. Give the video a like, and I'll talk to you guys next time.